Hey, this is Connor from Biker's Edge. I'm out here at Alta today testing out the Yeti SB130 versus the Santa Cruz Hightower. We're going to do a little shootout, pit one versus the other, see where the strengths are, where potential weaknesses might be, and hopefully help you decide which one's best for you. Alright, so I'm out on the 2020 Yeti SB130. I'm riding the XO1 build with the performance suspension. I'm riding a size XL. And for me, I'm like 6'2". And the new crop of Yeti bikes, I kind of fall between large and extra large. I think if I were to buy one, I'd size down to the large, just to keep that wheelbase and reach under control. I think if you're much taller than me though, you know, anything over 6'2", you'll probably be quite happy on the XL. First thing I noticed pedaling this bike is it feels really efficient. It's hardly any pedal bob with that Switch Infinity platform. The bike doesn't feel super lightweight and snappy, kind of like the Ibis Ripley, but it still climbs as well as you'd want. Probably even better considering, you know, it's got a 150 fork on there and it's kind of made to party. So I think for climbing it gets a pass. So I skipped the super technical climb just because it's raining. I'm trying to finish this up before the trails get too wet, but there's still going to be plenty of really difficult climbing. This is all pretty steep eagle gear kind of climbs. Some rocks and roots mixed in there. This is another one of those bikes with a really steep seat tube that just feels nice climbing. The seated climbing position just feels comfortable. When things get really steep, you're not falling off the back of the bike. I'm really glad the industry is trending towards these steeper seat tubes. Alright, so I just made it to the top of the climb. I recently hurt my hand, got a little skier's thumb going on, so I'm not able to hold on to the bars quite how I'd like. So I'm not going to be pushing it super hard today, mostly just trying to pay attention to the bike and see how it feels on this terrain. That's always super awkward through there, especially on a big bike like this. The long, extra large makes it a little more awkward. Holy cow, those rocks and roots are slippery. Impressions on the downhill. This is a big 130 mil travel bike. It rides pretty big and stable. It feels pretty plush actually. Keeps you fairly glued to the ground through the chatter. It's got some decent pop and mid-stroke support. Quite like it. It feels very balanced and versatile. You know, it's not a one-trick pony. It goes up, it goes down. Handles the steeps, and the more mellow stuff. Corners on rails feels really good through the corners. Ooh, almost lost it on the root there. Kind of just push that front end through. It feels solid. Oh, that's close. The wheelbase is a little long. Getting through some of that tighter stuff takes a bit of effort. You gotta slow it down a little bit. So far, big fan of this one. I've ridden the SB130. In fact, I owned one of those. This bike feels a lot more mild-mannered, a little easier to corner. Feels good at high speed. Holy cow. So as I'm wrapping up my ride here, just kind of thinking about who this bike might be for. This bike, the SB130, is probably more for someone who puts an emphasis on the downhill, but has to get to the top of those downhills. You're not doing many lift days or shuttle days. Whew. This is definitely on the rowdier side of trail bikes. I also think, you know, if you're racing enduros in Utah, we don't have anything gnarly enough to justify doing much more than this bike. Like, you could race all the enduros you'd want. Holy cow. This gets a little narrow. You could race all the enduros you wanted in Utah on this bike. Plenty capable. Plenty stout. And then you're not stuck with a one-trick pony. You've got a bike that can climb, can ride mellow. Be a pretty smart option for a lot of people. Back up here at Alta, I got rained out the other day and I didn't get a chance to ride the Hightower. So I've got the Hightower now, I'm back. Right now I am on the Hightower CC, a higher end carbon frame, and the X01 build with the reserve carbon wheels. I'm riding an extra large. This bike also feels big, which is funny because my everyday bike is an extra large Santa Cruz Mega Tower. So I wonder if it's just these handlebars. I think Santa Cruz was spec'ing 820 mil wide handlebars on the extra large bikes. And it just gives it super roomy, big feel. Now on my personal bike, I have them cut down closer to 780, which feels a lot better. While on paper, these bikes are very, very similar, nearly identical. I'm already starting to feel some differences between the two. The Hightower is a little more active while climbing. So it's a little less efficient. There's a bit more pedal bob, but that more active suspension platform might come in handy when things get steep. You need some extra traction, or you're climbing techie stuff. Might help keep that rear wheel planted on the ground just a little bit better. I just finished the fire road section of this climb, and the Hightower climbs well enough. It is a little less efficient than the Yeti, but it still does a decent job. Don't have too many complaints. There is a little bit more traction though, because it's a bit more active on the way up. Some of those pitches on the fire road get really steep, and even when I stood up, it's able to get quite a bit of traction. Doesn't get too hung up on the rocks and stuff. Kind of motors right up over it. Now that I'm done with the climbing portion of this ride, just a quick comparison on the two bikes, where I think the Yeti is a little more efficient, probably going to make you a little less tired over the course of a long day. I think the Hightower climbs the steeps and the technical stuff just a little bit better, just because it seems to have a bit more traction and it's a little more active, helping you get up and over those rocks just a little bit better. So it's pretty split on climbing. Kind of depends on what your climbs look like. If you've got long, steep fire roads, Yeti might do a bit better. If you've got technical, punchy single track, Hightower might be the ticket for you. Now I'm going to hit the downhill and see how they compare. Hello. Hello. Thanks. First thoughts on the Hightower descending. A lot like the Yeti, it feels like a big trail bike. I would say Hightower is probably even more planted. The rear wheel stays on the ground, gets bounced around just a little bit less. Still feels plenty poppy, very similar to the 130 in that regard. Cornering, I don't know if it's because the handlebars feel a little bit higher on this one, but cornering, the 130 seemed to be a little quicker, a little more maneuverable. So this doesn't quite want to change lines like the 130 does. Overall, the Yeti feels a bit more like a trail bike. The Hightower feels a bit more, I don't know, like a lightweight or a light duty enduro bike. Full-blown enduro bike, but I do feel like the Hightower's a little closer. It could be the extra 10 millimeters of travel. It could be the way that travel's used. It's a little more active, a little more grounded. That's always fun, bombing a road as fast as you can. As I'm wrapping this up, and again thinking about who this bike is for, Hightower is definitely for somebody who places a pretty big emphasis on descending. It will climb, and it does a lot better than a full-blown enduro bike, but it's not as trail bikey as the Yeti SB130. This is set up in the low mode, however, which makes it just a bit slacker than the 130. I'd be curious to try it in high and see how it compares. It doesn't change the geometry by too much. I think it's around a ½ degree total, so not huge, but it'd probably make a bit of a difference. Could help make it a little more maneuverable, and I think the climbing might get a hair better with the steeper geo, but I don't think it's going to make too big of a difference there. So in comparing these two bikes and who might benefit from each one, I think the SB130 is a little more well-rounded. I think it'll generally be a slightly better climber, especially if you're doing longer days, where the 140 is going to be, or sorry, the Hightower is going to be a slightly better descender. Hightower feels a little more, I guess, capable. Planted would be a good word. Just generally feels a bit more stable on the descent. The differences between the two bikes are pretty subtle. I mean, they're very much in the same category of bike on that kind of heavy-duty trail bike, but they each shine in different places. If I were to buy one and it was my only bike, personally, I'd go Hightower because I like the rougher descents and kind of pushing on the descents a little bit more. But I think a lot of people could really benefit from the versatility and the balanced nature of the Yeti SB130. Again, the differences are very subtle, and honestly, if you're trying to decide between both, maybe come in and demo each one. We've got them both in demo. It'd be a really good way for you to feel the differences between the two, and hopefully help you make that decision.